Sanitary Induction, presented by OHS FKM UI and Envisa FKM UI. To OHSC and Envisa, the screen are yours.
Good afternoon and warm greetings to everyone. Welcome to the Occupational Health Safety Sharing Knowledge X Upgrading OHSC 2026. At this moment, I will deliver a safety induction regarding potential emergency situations and health hazards that may occur during the event. There are two potential emergency situations that may occur: fire and earthquake. In case of a fire, please remain calm and do not panic. Immediately cover your face with a clothing or wet cloth. Then walk in a crouched position until you safely exit the building or house. After that, immediately contact the fire department at 113 or the Indonesian National Emergency number at 112. If the fire surge is still controllable and a fire extinguisher is available, use the best methods: pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Pull the safety pin, aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep the nozzle from side to side to extinguish the fire completely. In case of an earthquake, perform the drop, cover, and hold on method. Drop your body to the ground, cover your head and neck with your arms, take cover under a sturdy table and hold on until the shaking stops. Also, avoid areas near glass and hanging objects. In addition, there are also two potential health hazards that may occur: low back pain and glare. To prevent low back pain, make sure your sitting position is comfortable, with your back, head, and neck upright and not tilted sideways. Keep your shoulders in a relaxed position. Place your feet on a footrest if available, and do stretching exercise for about 10 minutes during each break. To reduce glare and eye strain, make sure you do not face away from the light while looking at your laptop or gadget screen. And rest your eyes every 20 minutes by looking at distant objects for 20 seconds. Thank you for your attention. Have a productive activity and always prioritize your health and safety.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the OHS Sharing Knowledge X Upgrading OHSC 2026, the Faculty of Public Health, University of Indonesia. Maintaining personal and environmental hygiene is our shared responsibility to ensure collective comfort and safety. Therefore, I kindly ask for your attention for a moment to listen to this sanitary induction. We would like to remind all participants to uphold cleanliness by following these steps. First, always wash your hands with soap and running water for at least 20 seconds before and after any activity. If this is not possible, you may use hand sanitizer to disinfect your hands. Second, keep the environment clean by disposing of waste properly. Please ensure that you are aware of the nearest trash bin during the course of this event. Third, kindly wear a mask if you are currently experiencing any symptoms of illness and intend to interact with others. We sincerely hope that all participants can understand and comply with the sanitary induction in order to maintain a clean environment and protect our collective health. Thank you for your attention and cooperation. Have a nice day.
Thank you to OHSC and Envisa for the safety and sanitary induction.
Before we proceed, please ensure that your seat positions are ergonomic. Sit upright, avoid slouching, and adjust the screen to meet at eye level, because poor posture may increase the risk of musculoskeletal disorders such as back pain or neck pain. Pastikan posisi duduk hadirin sudah sesuai ergonomis ya. Duduk dengan punggung tegak, jangan membungkuk, dan atur layar perangkat hadirin agar sejajar dengan mata. Karena postur kerja yang buruk bisa menjadi faktor risiko gangguan muskuloskeletal seperti nyeri punggung atau nyeri leher.
For reminder, please ensure that your equipment, especially your laptop and charger, are connected to a safe power source. Avoid using damaged cables or overloading power outlets, as these may pose to electrical hazards. Satu lagi dari saya, pastikan alat kerja hadirin, terutama laptop dan charger, terhubung ke sumber listrik yang aman. Hindari penggunaan stop kontak berlebih dan kabel yang sudah rusak, karena itu bisa menjadi bahaya elektrik.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Shalom,
Om Swastiastu,
nama budaya.
salam kebajikan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the OHS Sharing Knowledge and OHSC 2026 Upgrading Program with the theme ESG Implementation in Occupational Health and Safety. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Hanifah Sasabila Putri Andriani from the Occupational Health and Safety Undergraduate Program Class of 2025, and together with my partner,
And I am Alia Putri Kiraina Saifuddin from the Occupational Health and Safety Undergraduate Program Class of 2025. We will be your master of ceremony for today's event. And to ensure the smooth flow of today's program, let us begin with a prayer. We kindly invite all participants to pray according to respective beliefs and religion. So, pray begin. Pray never ends.
next, we kindly invite all participants to fill in the attendance form and complete the pre-test, which can be accessed by scanning the QR code displayed on the screen or through the following link at bit.ly/presensk2026. Selanjutnya, bagi seluruh peserta dipersilakan untuk mengisi presensi dan pre-test yang dapat diakses melalui scan QR yang tertera di layar atau melalui link bit.ly/presensk2026.
While we wait for everyone to finish filling out the attendance form and pretest, I want to ask Hani about something first.
Oh, what is it, Kirei?
So, basically, from your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you for today's event?
Wait, let me think. I'm so excited for this event. I would like to say 8.5 because I'm so excited and I'm so nervous at the same time, Kirei.
That's still a pretty good point, though. And for me, I'd say I'm about 9 because honestly, I'm still nervous too, since this event has been prepared for a quite long time.
Yeah, that's true. And hopefully, everything goes smoothly until the end, Kirei.
Right, and hopefully too, everyone joining today is also as excited as us for all the session we have prepared.
Hopefully, today won't just be informative, but also enjoyable for everyone too.
And yeah, that's right, honey. And for everyone, for those who haven't filled out the attendance form and pretest yet, please make sure to complete it through the link or through the QR code shown on the screen. Untuk hadirin yang belum menyelesaikan presensi dan pretest, bisa mengisi melalui kode QR atau link yang tertera pada layar.
No worries, we're still waiting for everyone to finish, so no need to rush, everyone.
Alright, everyone, just a quick reminder that there is 1 minute left for the attendance form and pretest submission. So, if you haven't completed them yet, please do so soon. Waktu tersisa 1 menit lagi untuk pengisian presensi dan pretest.
Make sure all your information is filled correctly before submitting, everyone. Pastikan hadirin mengisi informasi dengan benar sebelum mengirimkan formulir ya.
Okay, everyone, so we're ready for this, and for the time of filling out the attendance form and pretest is now over.
Next, we will have an opening remark from the General Leader of OHSC FKMUI 2026, Kezia Destiny Manuela. Kezia, the screen is yours.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me a chance to welcome all of you on today's Sharing Knowledge and Upgrading OHSC 2026. First of all, I would like to thank God for giving us the safety and healthy to be able to attend this event through this Zoom meeting. I will also want to say thank you to our special speaker today, Dr. Surinder, from University of Birmingham. Thank you for giving us your time and willingness to share your knowledge and give us a chance to learn more about the ESG from your professional experience in this field. And also thank you for Department of Occupational Health and Safety Universitas Indonesia for always supported and gave us this opportunity to expand our program furthermore. Also, I want to give a round of applause for OHS Division of Health and Safety Education and Human Capital for your guys' hard work on organizing today's event. And for all participants of Sharing Knowledge and Upgrading OHSC 2026, I want to say thank you and welcome to one of our best program. This is also the first time OHSC is able to make an international scale webinar, and this is also a great experience for us to learn more about new issues on occupational health and safety world, which is about the environment, society, and governance implementation on OHS. I hope we all can enjoy this program and learn a lot of knowledge from our speaker today. And I hope this program could be a meaningful experience for all of us. That's all of. Thank you for your attention and please enjoy the event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi 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 Om, Namo Buddhaya dan salam kebajikan.
Okay, thank you to Kezia as General Leader OHSC FKM UI 2026 for the welcoming remarks, and we sincerely hope that today's program will run smoothly and successfully, as conveyed in your remarks.
Next, we are honored to have opening remarks from the representative of the Occupational Health and Safety Department, Faculty of Public Health, Universitas Indonesia 2026, Dr. Mufti Wirawan, Bachelor of Psychology, Master of Occupational Health and Safety. To Dr. Mufti, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. Mic check. Is it clear? My voice? Can you hear my voice? Committee? Okay?
Yes, Doctor, you
Okay,
are
thank you.
clear.
Okay, first of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, to all committee members of Occupational Health and Safety Committee, the participants, the lecturers, maybe, or the distinguished guests, and also our honorable speaker, Dr. Surinder Kishan Desi from University of Birmingham. Glad to see you again, Dr. Surinder, or you always said that don't call me doctor, but Surinder. Thank you for your time and your willingness to share with us. First of all, I'm here to represent the head of Department of Occupational Health and Safety, Ibu Baiduri Widanarko, PhD. And as a representation of Department of Occupational Health Safety, I'm very glad we can run this session this afternoon. First of all, let us express our gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing, allowing us to gather in this event, this webinar series called Occupational Health and Safety Sharing Knowledge and Upgrading 2026. It is a pleasure to welcome to all of you, the participants, in this webinar with the theme ESG implementation in occupational health and safety. This topic is very relevant today as ESG principles play an important role in strengthening occupational health and safety practices in a more sustainable way. The topic ESG and occupational health and safety is important issues in our life. And then I would like to say this event serves two main purposes. The first event is the sharing knowledge session. It's designed for all participants, both students and the general participants, to broaden their understanding of health and safety. And then we have a second session is an upgrading for occupational health and safety committee is aimed at the functionaries to enhance their knowledge and competencies through this program. I would like also to express my appreciation to the committee for their hard work and to all participants for your enthusiasm in joining this event so we can be here and attending this grateful event. And then we also honored to have Dr. Surinder Kisendeshi as our speaker, who has contributed to our department several times before. I first met her in 2017, and yeah, so almost 10 years. Dr. Surinder always help us in our departments. So this is very a grateful situation, and we really truly appreciate her willingness to share her knowledge with us again. Okay, and then I hope that this webinar will provide such valuable insights, yeah, for all of you to have a better understanding about the implementation of ESG principles in occupational health and safety practices. And I encourage everyone to actively participate and make the most of this opportunity to learn, to get the knowledge and enhance your competencies. Yeah, do not hesitate to ask question and have discussion. Yeah, so be active, don't passive. And if you cannot ask a question in English, it's not a problem. Just write or maybe speak in Bahasa Indonesia, and the committee will help to translate into English. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for all of your attention. Good afternoon and enjoy the session. Be safe, be healthy, and be happy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Dr. Mufti for the welcoming remarks and kind prayers. We hope that today's program will continue to run smoothly and conductive, allowing all participants to gain the maximum benefit from today's session. And with all due respect, if Dr. Mufti have another engagement to attend to, please feel free to leave the Zoom meeting room.
Next, we would like to present the rundown of today's event. The event will begin with a 40-minute presentation by the speaker, then followed by 30-minute Q&A session led by the moderator and a 5-minute break. Next, there will be a certificates handover to the moderator and the speaker, and the event will conclude with a documentation session and a closing prayer.
All right, next, please allow me to read the curriculum vitae of our moderator for today. So, the moderator is Lanivia Fitri. She is an undergraduate program student of Occupational Health and Safety, class of 2024. She is actively involved in various organizations and committees, currently serving as Vice Manager Event at Health Safety Education OHSC KMUI 2026 and Vice Project Officer of OHS Competition OHS Expo 17. In addition to her organizational experience, she has also achieved remarkable accomplishment in the creative field, including winning first place at the Inspiring Indonesia Best Microfilm Festival 2025 and becoming a top 6 finalist at the Inspiring Asia Best Microfilm Festival 2025. With her strong background in leadership, public speaking, and even organizing, let us warmly welcome for our moderator for today. So, to Lanivia, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much for our MCs, Kire and Hani, for leading the event so far. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, and greetings of virtue to us all. How is everyone doing today? I hope all of us are healthy, safe, and doing well wherever you are joining from today. First of all, let us express our gratitude to God because by His grace, we are able to gather here today in the event OHS Sharing Knowledge X Upgrading OHS 2026. My name is Lanivia and I will be your moderator for today's session. Today, we are going to discuss a very interesting and relevant topic, namely ESG implementation in occupational health and safety. As we know, ESG, environmental, social, and governance, has become one of the major focuses across industries worldwide, especially in creating sustainable and safe workplace. And of course, to discuss this important topic, we are honored to be joined by an amazing speaker today. Before we begin the session, let me briefly introduce our distinguished speaker. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Surinder Kishandeshi, PhD, Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health, Chartered Environmental Health Practitioner, and Senior Fellow of the Higher Education Academy from University of Birmingham. Dr. Deshi is a senior lecturer in environmental health and risk management at the School of Geography, Earth and Environmental Science, University of Birmingham. She has an extensive academic background in environmental health, public health, and occupational health and safety, including a PhD in environmental health from the University of Manchester and a Bosch diploma in occupational health and safety. In addition, Dr. Deshi is also the program director of the Magister Health Safety and Environment Management Program accredited by IOSH and has authored more than 50 academic publications. Beyond academia, she also has professional experience as an environmental health consultant and has worked closely with occupational safety and environmental health institutions in the UK. It is truly an honor for us to have her here today. Good afternoon, Dr. Deshi. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. It's an honor to be here as well. It really is.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a great pleasure and honor to have you at Ohio Sharing Knowledge X Upgrading Ohio 2026. Before we begin, I would like to inform you that after the presentation session, we will continue with a Q&A discussion session with the participants. If there are any technical issues during this session, please feel free to contact the committee through the chat or microphone. So, Doctor, are you ready to begin today's presentation?
Yes, I'm ready. Should I share my slides now?
Yes, sure.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Thank you, Doctor.
here we go. Okay. Can you give me the permission?
Yes.
Here we are.
All right, the screen is on, Doctor. All right, then without further ado, please welcome Dr. Surinder Kishandeshi. The screen is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. This is really an honor, and I'm a little bit nervous as well, as you all being a little bit nervous because I I've seen so many people who are attending this, so I hope it's going to be interesting, and more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Um, Indonesia is one of my very favorite places in the world, and I really wish I was there rather than here at the moment. But hopefully we'll get to see each other sometime soon. Okay, so let's make a start. Little
I'm
bit
so
of
sorry,
background. Oh,
Doctor.
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the slide is still it's still on the the operator presentations. It's not on the
Oh,
slideshow. Yes.
oh gosh. Right. Okay. So let me go back. What I'm seeing is not what you're seeing. Then that's no good.
Yes.
Okay. Let me try now. Can you see my slides now? Oh, I can't hear you.
It's still on the PowerPoint, Doctor. Or do you want us to share the screen for you?
It might be if you have my slides, yeah, because it's showing a slideshow for me, but not for you, so that's no good.
All right. Then
If
we
I
will
stop
help you with
sharing,
the presentation. Yes.
okay, I'll stop sharing.
All right,
Oh,
is it on
look,
your
you're
screen?
so efficient. Wow.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Okay, right. So we move to our next slide, please. If I'm going too fast or if I'm not clear, please say. I'll try and go at a good pace because I know not everybody's probably so fluent in English, and I'm sorry for my bahasa. I only know, I think, Salamat Pagi, and that's the extent of it. So here we go. Okay. So thank you very much for the lovely introduction. Just to emphasize a couple of little bits about my background. Before I did my PhD, I was a health and safety inspector, and I was in enforcement roles, mostly in the city of Birmingham. And then when I started my PhD, I also set up a consultancy company, and I'm a consultant to the events industry in the UK. So I would say ESG, it used to be corporate social responsibility. We used to call it corporate social responsibility. Now we call it ESG. It's changed a lot in that time, and it's still changing. I think from my experience, we can include it as part of our core roles, especially if we are not in enforcement roles. If we are in an enforcement role, can be a little bit more difficult. But if we are working in the private sector or working for a company, then we have a lot more tools to have some impact with ESG. But I also just wanted to emphasize at the beginning that if we're going to have success really in health and safety, but also in ESG, we need to be very prepared to work with other professional groups as well. Because our role is part of it, but we need to connect with other professionals as well to really have a strong impact. So it's good to have that mindset from the start. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so this is just an outline of what I'm planning to speak to you about over the next 40 minutes or so. So we will start with an introduction to what ESG is, so we know what we're thinking about. Then we will have some thought about the commercial determinants of health. So these are ways in which businesses can impact on the health of people. Then we will think about life cycle assessment and think of some examples. Then we will quickly touch upon international standards around ESG. And then I thought we would think about some practical ways of influencing decision makers in companies to try and get support for ESG matters. And then we would just talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we face with ESG. So the idea of this lecture is that it will be interactive. So I have some questions in here that I'm hoping you will answer in the chat, and we can have a bit of a discussion on these things as well. So let's try. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, okay. So here's my first question. Let's try and see if we can make this interactive. Companies normally have a legal obligation to be profitable. That's important. All companies want to make a profit. But what responsibilities do we think companies should have aside from making a profit? So can you put your thoughts in the chat? Is this going to work? Let's try. Is anybody going to say so? Okay. Has anyone got any thoughts on responsibilities that companies should have other than just trying to make lots of money? Very good. Thank you, Nandi, for helping us here. Environmental sustainability, very important. Yes, workers' safety, absolutely right. Environmental, yes. Supporting local communities, yes. Ethical business, this is Sarah, thank you. These are really good points. Safety, yes. Ensuring that workers are in a good environment. Yes, absolutely right. These are really, really good points. And sometimes these points get lost. We will all know companies that are just focused on the profit. And certainly when I was an inspector, often when you're an inspector, you're responding to an accident or a complaint or when something has gone wrong. And those companies are often the ones which are focused on profit and not paying attention to the other things. So absolutely right. And you'll see from some of these points that people are making, there are legal obligations. So with the health and safety, there are legal obligations, which helps us. But for some of these points, there are fewer legal obligations. So we need to try and make a convincing case for investment in ESG, which doesn't just rely on the legal side and fear of prosecution and so on. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's great. Thank you very much for joining in there. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay. So this is just a broad introduction to what ESG is. It stands for Environment, Social and Governance. And as I say, it used to be called Corporate Social Responsibility, which can also be a helpful way of thinking about the origins of it. But basically, it's about non-financial criteria. Yeah. So we take the money out. All companies want to earn lots of money, but these are the impacts of the company and the responsibilities of the company which are not relating to money. Hopefully that makes sense and you're with me. So we can use these criteria to look at the performance of a company, and we should also be looking at direct impacts of the company. So that is, you know, maybe how much power the company is using, what's happening with their production line, that kind of thing. But we also have here, can you see indirect impacts of the company? Yeah. So this is maybe what's happening from the suppliers, maybe that's what's happening with company investments. Are they investing ethically with their profits? What happens with the products maybe that they're making when the end of the product life comes and they're with the customer? So we have, it's huge. ESG is absolutely huge. And all I can achieve really here is to give you an introduction and give you hopefully some things to think about. But it's good to just think from the beginning that yes, we're looking directly at the company activities, but also the indirect impacts, which can often be bigger. Okay. Okay, can I have the next slide? Okay, so I'm going to just give a few examples of the E, the S, and the G, so that hopefully it feels a bit real. Very happy for you all to have my slides. I put links in to resources all the way through these slides, so you're very welcome to share these. It's no problem. So examples of environment considerations that relate to companies would be, as I mentioned before, the energy consumption that maybe they're using, impact on nature. So that might be pollution incidents, for example, contaminating land, contaminating water, waste disposal, this sort of thing. We see a lot of focus on carbon footprints as part of ESG. We see a lot of claims about net zero planning as well, and we will talk about something called greenwashing later on. So these are just examples. This is not everything, but hopefully these examples are enough that gives you some understanding of what the environment component would be. All right. So if we can have the next slide. Yeah. So these are social examples, and I thought this was very interesting. So in America, they say diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Yeah, in the UK we say EDI. We twist it round, but it's the same thing. So if I say EDI, it just means the same thing. Okay. I'm not sure what you say in Indonesia, but you hear these things interchangeably. And basically, these policies are about making sure that there are equal outcomes for people. So that is not the same as treating everybody the same because we have different starting points. So we're looking for equality at the end point rather than equality at the start point. If people are starting at different levels and we treat them the same, they might go up, but the gap will remain. Yeah. So we need to have policies that help to even things up, and then people can progress. So this is quite an important thing to understand, especially when we have these pay gaps. So normally the social side, we start seeing health and safety, workforce well-being appearing as a consideration. Organizational culture, also that's part of our remit. And we're looking at things also about procurement. So this is where the company is buying products or services from, and local partnerships, looking after the community, looking after people affected by the business. Modern slavery and human rights. So this is about making sure that when that the company has good, fair policies in place to protect their own workers, but it also relates to where products are coming from. So, for example, if you have a factory that's making garments, that questions are asked about where the raw materials are coming from, if people are being treated fairly there, so on. And I had a look up for the Indonesian gender pay gap, and I popped this in here. I just thought it might be interesting for you. So there's a gender pay gap everywhere, but I tried to find one that's relevant for you. So this is an example of why these EDI policies are so needed. And it's just one example, gender, but there's also, ethnicity, all sorts of different factors. That means some groups are disadvantaged when compared to others. Okay, can we have the next slide? Okay, so there's been some debate, mostly in the health and safety community. I don't think this has been raised really outside the community, but that maybe the S should stand for safety rather than social. And this chap, Mike Robinson, he's from the British Safety Council, so they're quite an important organisation here in the UK. And he's saying, our position is really clear. Occupational health and safety data should be treated as core ESG reporting requirement. It should be embedded. It shouldn't be something that is just added on afterwards. And so he's saying, good organizations with a strong safety culture, organizations who are serious about transparency and what they're doing, they shouldn't be shy about reporting this stuff. So some people are arguing that safety could replace the S. I don't think that will happen, but I understand the argument, and it is, it's important that we are recognized for what we're doing here. So if you can do the next slide for me, please. Okay, so I had a look, and I was looking through big organizations to see how they were reporting on ESG and whether safety was being included as part of this. So this is a company called BP, which has quite a large presence in Indonesia. I think one of my former students is working for BP. It's one of the reasons I chose this one. So this is their ESG data sheet, and look, ta-da, safety's here. So that was some good news, really nice to see. Yes. This is not happening everywhere, but I thought how good that such a huge international company has put safety there centrally in their ESG data sheet that is publicly available online. I found this very easily. So this gave me a bit of hope to be honest, that we are starting to see safety be embedded. But there's still a lot of work to be done, for sure. We are not completely there. Okay, I think we will have the next slide, please. So then looking at what governance is, and we'll talk a little bit about how to influence boards later on, but this is basically how is the company managing itself? How is it managing what goes on within the company, but how is it managing kind of supply chains and so on as well? So there should be, and this connects really well to our health and safety roles, because when we look at safety management systems, they're essentially governance systems in some kind of form, aren't they? And what we always want to see is that occupational health and safety is embedded in the work of the business, that everybody views it as their own concern, rather than something which is just added on when something goes wrong. Which is something that we do see a lot. So I think we have a good role here on the governance side. Really trying to make sure that occupational health and safety is embedded, but also it will fit with other governance part of the business. So, you know, managing cash flows so that there can't be corruption, so that money can't go to support bad things. And here we go. Most organizations have written values. They have a company statement of purpose, some kind of values. Your university most likely will. My university does. So large organizations, even small ones, often have these values published. And we are trying to look for and push and to see that ESG and health and safety are reflected within the organizational values and how the organization does its business, basically. Okay, so we can have the next slide. Okay, so let's have a think about the health, safety, and environmental implications of a business. So let's try with the chat. What do you think businesses can do that cause harm? What can businesses do that cause harm? The implications that they can have on health, safety, and environment. Can you try and answer that for me? What are the bad things that can happen as a result of business practices? Any ideas? Any suggestions? Shall I give you some? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Nivea's come to my rescue. Thank you. Exactly right. Yeah, all through. They can impact the working conditions of their suppliers if they're not paying the right amount of money. We see this a lot. They can impact on the environment. They can cause pollution issues. There are major issues with waste. We'll talk a little bit about the fashion industry as we go through, but one of my students did a fantastic project. She's from Ghana, and Ghana buys a lot of secondhand clothing products from across the world, and it's sold in these big markets. But some of the items aren't good enough to be sold. And so there's a massive quantity of discarded clothing items in Ghana, causing a lot of waste management problems. So we're starting to see arguments now on the business that you have a responsibility for things from A to Z through the whole process. Here we go. Riva has also come to the rescue. Yes, exactly. This is very important, the organizational culture and managing processes. So we want to see that companies are managing what they're doing well and not causing harm. You know, that's what we're all about, isn't it? That's what we're training for. We don't want to see bad things happening, basically. Okay, so if I can have the next slide. here we go. So you might have heard of commercial determinants of health. We don't speak about them so much, but I find this a useful way of thinking about how businesses can impact. So this is quite a nice quote. This is from the World Health Organization, and I've put the link in here because there's quite a big page on what the commercial determinants of health are. But basically, I'll read this quote. The private sector influences the social, physical, and cultural environments through business actions and societal engagements. For example, supply chains, labor conditions, product design and packaging, research funding, lobbying, preference shaping, and others. Okay, so we all know that private organizations are very, very powerful in the world. They're very powerful and they have a lot of money. And so they can have a massive influence on conditions that people are living and working in. But also, this is important to note, this lobbying, they can have a very big influence on what the laws are within a country and how those laws are enforced. So it's just something to be aware of, really, and to look out for. But if we are working with and for these private sector organizations, we can actually have a big positive influence as well. So these commercial determinants of health, they're very powerful. Often we see examples like, what's a good example for Indonesia? Maybe sugary drinks. There's the sugar industry. Yes, I love Indonesia very, very much. But one thing I always notice when I come is that everything is very sweet. And sometimes because I'm not used to this, I'm craving for a salty thing when I come. But the sugar industry all over the world is very powerful. And we obviously have problems in lots of different countries with obesity, childhood obesity, for example. And we're starting to see some governments taking action on sugary drinks. So, for example, here in the UK, we have something called a sugar tax, where companies have been really strongly encouraged to reformulate their products so they're not so sugary. And we have similar thing for salt. So these big companies, if you think about just any day in your life, you can think about all the impacts that they have on your health. It's a lot. It can be a lot. What you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're doing with your day, what you're viewing on the, TikTok with influencers, all this kind of stuff. It all impacts on how you're living your life. So I'll have the next slide, please. Here we go. Okay. So I really like this infographic, and it's something that you can look at in a bit more detail in your own time, because I think it's probably quite difficult to see on this screen. But it really unpicks this idea of the commercial determinants of health, and how they can have positive influences and how they can have negative influences as well. And I just wanted to flag that there's a really good journal called The Lancet. You might have heard of it. It's a health medicine-y kind of public health focused journal. And they did a series on the commercial determinants of health. So I've put the link in here for you. And this was a model that they came up with, starting kind of on the individual factors and going out towards societal factors. So you can have a good look at this in your own time. It's a little bit small for me to unpick very clearly here. But I think these commercial determinants of health are very important to be aware of, and they connect in with ESG and the impacts that we can have in our professional groups, in improving health, not just of workers, but of people who are impacted by the company's activities outside the workforce. Are we okay so far? Are you following me? Yeah? Okay. Okay, let's have the next slide then. Let's go. Oh, thank you. Thumbs up. That's very reassuring, because when you're speaking and you're giving your lectures, you just like to make sure that people are with you. Okay, so you will know about the Sustainable Development Goals, zero doubt about this. But I just wanted to flag that we are seeing ESG being connected with the Sustainable Development Goals. And when you look at all these different, I think there's 17 of them, when you look at these goals, you can see how that's happening. You know, it flows all the way through. And the Sustainable Development Goals, the reasons why I've put this in is they're so well recognized, they're so well established, well accepted. It's another lever for us when we're trying to push for action to say, okay, I have half an hour left. Okay, that's fine. So I need to finish my time 8. Okay, fine. We're going to be all right. Okay. So yes, I just put the Sustainable Development Goals in as a reminder that, you know, at a global level, we have these objectives. And even when we're looking at ESG in a small organization, we shouldn't lose sight of this bigger picture. Okay. Right, let's have the next slide. Okay. So I thought we would just think about something for a minute. So pick an item of clothing that you're wearing, something that you're wearing, and think about these questions, whether you know the answers to these questions. So whatever it is that you're wearing, do you know where it was made? Do you know the conditions it was made in? Do you know what it is made of? What's the material? Is it something that started off as oil? Maybe. Or is it a natural fiber? This is an important question as well. How much use do you intend for this item? Is it something we would call fast fashion? Are you familiar with the term fast fashion? You know this. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, so is something you're wearing what we would call a fast fashion item? Are you just wearing it for a short amount of time and then you will get rid? Or is it something that you've bought as an investment to keep? And when you dispose of the item, will it be because you're tired of it, or will it be because it's reached the end of its life? And if it is coming towards the end of its useful life, are you willing to repair it, or is it throw away? And when it does come to the end of the life, how will you dispose of it? Will it go to the incinerator? Will it go in the material recycling so it can be turned into something else? So I put this in because I think it's very easy for us as individuals to judge what other people are doing. We can have very strong opinions about what other people are doing and what businesses should be doing. But actually, we all have a part to play. We all, every decision we make, we are supporting something or we are not supporting something. And this is a bit of a reminder. Yes, we're thinking about ESG and the beginning to the end of a product, but we are also thinking about our personal responsibilities as conscientious individuals and how we are living our lives and what we are doing to genuinely embrace the values that we are saying we have in the workplace. Do we actually have them for ourselves? So I'm just throwing this question at you. Sometimes it's good to stop and think. When my students come, sometimes I do this with them in the classroom and I get them to look in their clothing. Where is your clothing made? And then we have a discussion about, okay, where in the world has this come from? And sometimes you see, for example, in the UK, our health and safety statistics are very good. But some of the reason for that is because we moved the manufacturing abroad. So sometimes beneath the surface, there's another story. And we have a responsibility to make sure that the people are producing our clothes or whatever it is are doing that in good conditions. So we return to this later. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is just looking at, this is one example of the impact of fast fashion since we are focusing on clothing. And again, this is very small on our screen, so you can have a look at this more closely in your own time. But I quite like this because it was about thinking of the whole impact of these items. So, you know, some things last, they're not going to biodegrade very easily. You know, they might be around for 200 years. We buy something so easily and it will be around way beyond our lifetimes, you know, even our children's children, something we bought may still be around. There are impacts around water use. There are impacts around moving things all across the world. There are impacts around the workforce and the conditions that they're in. So there's lots and lots of things to consider. And I like this fast fashion thing as an example of something that's so everyday and so simple, but there can be, you know, impacts, huge impacts for society of these products. So next slide, please. I need to not lose track of the time. How are we doing? Okay, we're all right. Okay, so there was a campaign. You will remember during COVID, everything kind of stopped, didn't it? Everything stopped and we were not going shopping, we were not buying stuff. And what happened was a lot of the garment makers were very badly impacted because the big companies here, we've got Target, Calvin Klein, Amazon, Nike, all of these companies, they cancelled the contracts that they had with the people making these garments. And so there were huge economic impacts. Here we go. US 40 billion of cancelled contracts. That's absolutely huge. So there was a big campaign called Pay Up, and I put the link in here so you can have a look. This is all about fast fashion and the impacts of it. And they managed to recover 22 billion of that 40 billion as part of that campaign and the impact of the cancelled contracts. So one thing we can, if we're working in private industry and we're looking at ESG, we are looking at workers' rights and so on, the conditions they're in, but we also are looking at a term that we have called decent work. So that's making sure that, you know, the working conditions are good, but also that people are earning a wage that they can live on, that they have some kind of sense of security and all this kind of stuff around it as well. Okay. We have the next slide, please. Right, so this is connecting with the fast fashion a bit. I've just stuck with that as an example. But we have an international standard around environmental management and life cycle assessment. Okay, so life cycle assessment is basically just as we have just done, looking at things from beginning to end. So it's very easy just to focus on the part that is in front of our faces in a workplace, isn't it? We can just look at the manufacturing process or whatever it is, which is actually going on within a factory. But this is making sure we're considering what's happening before that and also after. So I just like this. This is from some organization which helps with life cycle assessment, but I thought this was a very handy diagram which kind of just explains quite nicely about what it is and the impacts that can be had through the life cycle. Okay, so I put a link in. You can follow this up in your own time if you're interested and do some more reading. Okay. So moving on, here we go. And I just wanted to flag this as well. If you are interested in this stuff, this is a critical geography project. So it's quite critical. But there's a kind of methodology called Follow the Things. And I put the link in here for you to look up in case you're interested. What it is, it was started by a geographer, Professor Ian Cook, and they call it trade justice activism. And when you click on it, it's like a supermarket, and you can click on different products and it will show you where the product is from, where it's made, where it's traveled, any issues with human rights, all this kind of stuff. And it's just a fascinating site. A lot of the projects have been student projects, undergraduate projects that have been written up and put on here. So there are people at the same career stage as you who've contributed to this as well. But it's just a fascinating resource. As I say, very critical. They don't put sugar on things, but it's an interesting look if you're fascinated by the chain of things. Okay, so we have the next slide, please. Okay, so when we're talking about what's ESG actually in practice, there's not a one size fits all. You know, we're not going to see the same template everywhere. Every organization is very different. It will have its own values. Some will have more ethical considerations than others. They will have very different attitudes to risk. They will have different investors with different priorities. So we need to remember that ESG, yes, while there's standards that we can use, there has to be some flexibility and some understanding that in different organizations, this will look very different. And some organizations will focus more on some elements than others. And, you know, that's just life. We have to focus on the positives and then bring up the negative sides. So if you can move to the next slide. I have a little critique of my own organization here. So I work for the University of Birmingham in the UK, as you know, and I was looking around on our website for ESG stuff, and they are really, really, really strong on the environment, but there's not much in there about safety. So I just put this slideshow in, you know, tons about, you know, these are our priorities. We care about all this stuff, but it's very environment focused, very sustainability focused. And really, I struggled to find very much at all about workforce well-being, workforce safety, all this kind of stuff. So even, you know, University of Birmingham is very famous for environmental stuff, sustainability stuff. Even I think we can critique this. You know, nothing is perfect. Really, nothing is perfect. But yeah, I thought that was just an interesting example. I put a link in there so you can have a look if you want. Okay, let's move on. So I have a few slides here on the international standard for ESG. I put the link in here so you can look up the standard summary yourself. Even the summary is very huge and detailed. So I've had to just focus on the headlines really, because otherwise it would be a very dry lecture and we wouldn't be thinking on the broader topics. But this is basically just mostly to let you know there is a standard. And the standard, interestingly, really connects things. They have spelt it out. This is written on the standard website that it connects with the SDGs. So I thought this is a good sign. This is a good sign. Everyone knows about the SDGs and it's an internationally agreed thing. Fantastic. We have a good connection here that we can use as a bit of a lever. So I was really pleased to see that. Okay, if we have the next slide. Okay, this was also within this standard as well. And I thought, excellent, look, this is us, isn't it? Decent work, quality of life, this is our territory. So this was in the section around consulting with interested parties. I put this in because I thought it's a really helpful way of us thinking about, just very quickly, all the different people and organizations that will be interested, but all their different agendas. So, you know, you have the partners and suppliers, they're interested in having a partnership that's going to endure and be sustainable. Wider society, they will be interested in the environmental protections and the responsibilities, social responsibilities. People who work for the company will be concerned about their own working conditions, pay, all this kind of stuff. And on we go. So you know, ESG is very, very big, it's very, very broad. And organizations will need to think very carefully about where they're going to focus their energies, basically, and what their priorities will be. And the priorities will be different for all of them. But I thought this was an interesting thing anyway. Okay, we have the next slide, please. So I picked out within this guidance document, there were questions that they highlighted that are useful to ask for each of the three elements. Just kind of critical questions of, you know, how are we actually managing each of these parts? So for environment, there were questions around, you know, are the reporting processes there? Are we conforming to the standards that we should be? How do we know where the organization stands? How is work going with our interested parties? 15 minutes. Okay, that's fine. How do we measure the activities, and who else can we work with? Okay, so we go to the next one. So these were the social questions. Just checking where we're going. Okay, yeah, these are the social questions. So again, they're picking up direct and indirect. So we discussed that at the beginning, didn't we? How do we link with the communities? Who's benefiting? This is really important. Who's losing out as a result of our activities? How do we work and help shape communities? And how are we dealing with EDI? Okay, so we have the next slide. Okay, and these are the governance questions. So, you know, how are we evaluating what we're doing? Do we have a diversity of views represented? Are the reporting mechanisms in place? Are our management procedures all connected together? This is important here. Are we just ticking a box to say, yes, we've done something? Or is there a meaningful commitment happening here? All right, so that's as much as I was going to do actually on the standard, because if you're going to be using this, you'll be looking it up yourself. But I just wanted you to be aware that this is a thing. Okay, we have the next slide. So I thought we would think a little bit about the practicalities and if when we're trying to influence a company, where we put our energy. So if you look at this diagram, we're looking at where the responsibilities within a company lie for different things. So when we're looking at policy and strategy, often these are the people that are making the decisions about where the money is spent. Yeah. So most things we want to change involve some kind of financial commitment of sorts. And often we see where the risk management responsibility lies. It's not in the budget holding, major decision making layer of the company. And that means that we need to be very clever about how we are influencing people on the board at the top of the company who hold the budget. We need to be able to influence and make the case to them for investment in what we do. Does this make some sense? Yeah. This is an important skill for us to develop. So I just flagged here really that, okay, we think we are very important. We know we are very important. Of course, we're important. But within an organization, sometimes we are not very important. And that's the reality. That's the reality. So we have to be creative and find ways to make sure that we're influencing the people that are very important, so we get the decisions that we want to support what we are doing. Yes? Okay. So we have the next slide. Okay. So I'm going to run through this because we don't have so much time, but I was going to ask you to think about how you would influence the board. What would motivate them? So we're going to think of a couple of different motivations, but I have a short video to show you that just lasts a couple of minutes. Can we see if it will work on the next slide? Then Nivea, can you see if this video will work for me?
I'm so sorry, but the presentation
It's
is
not
in the
working?
PDF, so we cannot
Oh
like play
no,
it.
okay, all right,
Yes.
okay, okay. I gained a few minutes. Okay, that's fine. Now, whether you remember this or not, I don't know. Okay, then we can do the chat. Then we can do the chat. Okay, so if you are working within a very big company and you don't have your own budget, but you want to try and influence the people at the top who do have the budget, what sort of arguments would you present that you think would persuade them? Can you think of things? So imagine you're trying to persuade the board members to invest in ESG and occupational health and safety. What do you think would persuade them? Yes, very good. Zaina, you are on fire. Important to show how ESG can reduce operational risks, prevent accidents, yes, improve well-being, ensure compliance with regulations. Yes, all very, very important, good points. Thank you, Zaina. You're absolutely on it. So the board members will be concerned about money, won't they? So we will want to be making some economic arguments. Okay, so if you go to the next slide, I will just explain what this was. So go back to the video that isn't a video. Okay, so you might remember there was a big issue with VW, Volkswagen. You will probably have been very young when this happened, but you might remember the fallout. Maybe we can share this video link after the session with the students. So this was a very short video about what happened at VW, where they were hiding emissions results. They had designed the vehicles to show when they were being tested that the emissions from the vehicles were actually lower than what they were, some kind of design fix. And what it meant was that the vehicles were actually much more polluting than they were being marketed as being. And so this has caused VW a huge, huge hit. There's a reputational risk. There's economic risk. There's future sales. There's all of this in the package. So the reason I put this in was I wanted you to think, if you're a board member, you're concerned about the reputation of your business. You're concerned about the money that you're going to be earning now. You're concerned about the legal implications, fines, again, reputation, ability to do your business in the future. And so when something like this happens, the impacts can be vast. When we're trying to influence people on these boards, we do need to think about what their motivations will be. They won't necessarily be motivated by the ethical side. We are motivated by the ethics. This is the kind of people we are to choose this job. But not everybody is like us. So we need to remember not everybody is like us. What might motivate them? And then we need to make sure that we're making arguments that will work for our audience. Okay, so we have the next slide, please. Okay, I did look up around companies having ethical motivations, and this was quite interesting. This was I think a University of Bath blog, and they were saying, well, you know, companies are made up with people, and some people will have strong ethical considerations and some won't. So that can make a difference. And if you go to the next slide, I thought this was interesting. So this is a Pakistani petroleum company. And I looked up the company values, and they had actually changed the name of their company, not to have petroleum in the title anymore, but to have a different title. And they were saying that sustainable development, all of this is very, very important to us. But can you see there's something in there about investors? They're interested in investor motivations as well. So this will be a consideration for the board. They will be interested in the financial position. Will people want to invest in our company as well? What's the commitment to that? So it's messy and it's a bit complicated, but when we need to be able to try and influence people at the top of the organizations to support our goals, and we need to be aware that there's lots of different factors which can be motivating for them. Okay, so we need to do our homework, work out what will work in this situation, and then you make your argument towards that. Okay, we have the next slide, please. I think, do I have about 6 minutes? Okay, I think we have time for a quick writing stuff in the chat thing. Do you know about greenwashing? What is greenwashing? Yes, well done. Yes, yes, yes. So when companies are claiming to be something that they're not, and they're using green claims to maybe cover up something which is not so nice. Well done. Well done. Yes, you're absolutely right. Zaina's back. Yes. Nandi, deceptive marketing tactic. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So we need to have our eyes open for this, because there are economic benefits of showing that we're doing the right thing. Yes, yes, come and spend your money with us. We're very ethical. Come and invest in our company. We are very ethical. But sometimes you look under the surface, it's not. Okay. Alicia, yes, practice of making false, exaggerated, or misleading claims. Absolutely right. Well done. You have got what this is. So we need to be careful when people are making these claims. Actually, what's the reality of what's going on? So if we have the next slide. Yes, this is just summing up what greenwashing is. I wasn't sure if you would be aware of it or not, but there are situations where this is happening. 4 minutes. Okay, we're good. We're good. And it can take all sorts of different forms. So I just summarized here really some of the ones that are very common, and I put a link in here around United Nations comments on this, which I thought you might want to look up. So basically, yes, making claims which are not good. You see lots of claims about things being green or natural, or, you know, terms that don't really mean anything, but people would like to support. So just be careful with this. Just be careful with this. Next slide. Okay, so this is just wrapping up really, because I have thrown so many things at you in the space of about 40 minutes. It's a lot. So really, to make the point, ESG and OSH are interlinked and overlapping. Not everyone appreciates that yet, so we have to be good about making the arguments. Oh, you can see the video. Have we got time?
Volkswagen has fallen to
Yes, we could see the video. Would you like to play
Let's
it?
try. Yeah, let's try.
11
Is it gonna
million
work?
vehicles worldwide to cheat on emissions tests. Here's a breakdown of the scandal, blow by blow.
Is it working? I can't see it.
West Virginia University discovered that Volkswagen was using software. Once the world's top
Now it might work.
Once the world's top automaker, Volkswagen has fallen to number 2.
Oh, no.
One reason, the company admits it rigged 11 million vehicles worldwide to cheat on emissions tests.
Yes, that was working. Yeah.
Once the world's top automaker, Volkswagen has fallen to number 2. One reason, the company admits it rigged 11 million vehicles worldwide to cheat on emissions tests. Here's a breakdown of the scandal, blow by blow. A group of scientists at West Virginia University discovered that Volkswagen was using software in its diesel cars to cheat on clean air tests. The software detects when a car is being tested. The engine then runs differently, making emissions seem cleaner than they ordinarily are. They find emissions are up to 40 times higher than legal limits, but the company repeatedly denies the claims to U.S. officials. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announces that Volkswagen was manipulating its diesel cars to score better on emissions tests. Volkswagen admits rigging 500,000 cars in the U.S. to work around emission laws, but the company's problems are bigger than that. It admits the problem is global in scale, affecting 11 million cars worldwide. Amid calls to fix the affected vehicles, VW halts the sale of diesel cars in the U.S. CEO Martin Winterkorn apologizes and resigns. He's replaced by Matthias Müller, the head of VW's Porsche brand. Meanwhile, Volkswagen is hit by endless lawsuits from customers upset that their cars have lost value because of the software. Volkswagen's German headquarters are raided by police in search of incriminating documents as German prosecutors investigate. Volkswagen says they are cooperating and anyone involved will face the full consequences. Days later, the French and Italian offices are also raided. Plans are announced to start recalling the 8.5 million affected cars across Europe. The company says they will be fixed by the end of 2016. VW cedes its recently won title of world's top automaker to Toyota. Michael Horn, head of Volkswagen in the U.S., testifies to U.S. lawmakers, blaming the scandal on a few engineers. Senior management was not involved, he says. After months of apologizing, VW decides it's time to pay up. The company forks over $500 each to owners of affected cars in the U.S. The gesture cost Volkswagen $250 million, but for some customers, it's no longer enough. They demand a buyback of the rigged vehicles. 9 managers suspected of involvement in the scandal are suspended by the company. Volkswagen says it will set up a fund to compensate owners, tapping mediator Ken Feinberg to decide how much each should get. Another exec is out. This time it's Michael Horn, CEO of Volkswagen Group of America. He resigns. Volkswagen reaches a deal to buy back or fix 500,000 U.S. cars involved in the emissions cheat. The company says the price tag for the crisis is double its original estimate. It sets aside about $18 billion to deal with the cost of the scandal. VW agrees to pay up to $14.7 billion to settle the issue. That's much more than any other automaker has paid for wrongdoing. Most of that money will go to owners of the affected vehicles. In addition to compensation for lost value, Volkswagen will have to either buy back or fix the cars. But this isn't the end of the story. The company still faces civil and criminal investigations.
Thank you for making that work. Wow, what a team. Thank you. So that's the end of my presentation, to be honest. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining in with the chat. I wasn't sure whether that was going to be a success, but it has been. I've put my contact details on the very last slide, and so feel free to get in touch with anything. It's always good to hear from people. So thank you, and I will hand back to Lenivia. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. for the insightful and inspiring presentations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please give your warmest applause and reactions to Dr. Deshi for the amazing session today. Well, in conclusion, today's session has highlighted that ESG is not only about environmental sustainability, but also about social responsibility and effective governance. Occupational health and safety plays a crucial role within the ESG framework, as protecting workers' health, safety, and well-being is fundamental to sustainable business practice. We also learned that organizations must consider both their direct and indirect impact on people, communities, and the environment throughout the entire life cycle of their activities. Furthermore, successful ESG implementation requires strong leadership commitment, stakeholder engagement, transparency, and adherence to recognized standards. And finally, while ESG offers significant benefits for organizations, communities, and the environment, it is important to remain critical of greenwashing and ensure that sustainability commitments are supported by real actions and measurable outcomes. And I'm sure here many of our participants are also curious to learn more and discuss the topic further. So, therefore, we will now proceed to the Q&A session. This session will last for approximately 30 minutes. For participants who would like to ask questions, you may either send your questions through the chat box or use the raise hand feature if you would like to ask directly. For those who's asking, please introduce yourself by stating your name and institution before asking your question. Bagi hadirin yang ingin bertanya, silakan mengirimkan pertanyaan melalui kolom chat atau menggunakan fitur raise hand apabila ingin bertanya secara langsung. Jangan lupa juga untuk memperkenalkan diri terlebih dahulu sebelum bertanya ya. Hadirin yang ingin bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia juga diperkenankan. Alright, the floor is now open for questions.
I wonder if anybody is thinking of this as a career option to focus on ESG. It's a growing, there's quite a few jobs in this field, actually, I think.
Yes, I really think that the topic is actually very relevant, and we learned a lot today from Dr. Deshi. So, for all the participants, if you have any questions, you may raise your hands or you may drop the question on the chat box.
I think there was a lot of information there. Probably it's a bit, it's a lot to take in. Here we are, Zaina.
Yes, we have a question from the chat box here from Zainah Nurhayati. She asks, "Good afternoon, Dr. Trinder. My name is Zainah from K3 UI. Since board members are often motivated by financial performance and reputations, how can organization ensure that ESG commitments remain genuine rather than become simply a tool for profit protection and image management?" Thank you very much, Zainah, for the question. I would like to invite Dr. Surinder Kishandeshi for answering the question.
Oh, Zaina, this is such a good question. It's such a good question. Actually, it also relates to investment in health and safety as well, because we are often trying to make the economic argument for that. I think there's two ways of looking at this. One is if we're getting the result that we want in terms of investment, do the motivations of the board matter as much? So if we sometimes, obviously they're concerned about the budgets, and we need to make the economic case. If the outcome is what we want it to be and we've managed to secure the investment, do we put very much energy into being concerned about whether the board members are genuinely committed to this or not, or do we just accept the win, if that makes sense? The concern with that is when times become more difficult, then sometimes we see the commitment fading. If the commitment isn't kind of genuinely held. So I think it's a brilliant question. There's no easy answer to this. Sometimes we do have to play the game is the wrong term, but we have to use the tools that we've had to get the results that we want. And sometimes it's using arguments that would appeal to someone who's financially orientated rather than ethically orientated, but we get the result that we want. Maybe it's not so comfortable for us. Maybe it won't stick so well. But if we don't make the arguments in that way, then it's unlikely to be supported. So we have a tension sometimes because often, we choose these professions because we care very much about other people. We care very much about the environment. People like us are very often very idealistic. That's why we choose this job, which is not easy. We're not going to be millionaires. Maybe in Indonesia we'll be millionaires. I won't be a millionaire. We do it for the ethical reasons. I think that's why we choose this job. But not everybody's like us. And I think sometimes we just have to accept that reality and work within the boundaries of the situation we're in to get the results that we want to see. I don't know if that answers the question, but it's a really, really good question. Very thoughtful. Yeah. Does anyone else have an answer to that question, which is better than mine?
Well, for me personally, I totally agree with doctor because it is not easy to actually could implement it 100% effectively. And yeah, we need to stick to the reality of how is it going. All right, thank you, doctor, for the answer to the questions. I hope that answered Zainah's question. All right, next we're gonna move on to the next questions. If anyone else here have a question, you may drop it on the chat or raise your hand. All right, we have another question here coming from Nandi in the chat box. Nandi asks, "Good afternoon, Dr. Surinder. My name is Nandi, a management student at Universitas Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa. Based on the Birmingham lecture slides, since modern standards require a double materiality approach, how can our board effectively shift occupational health and safety from a basic compliance checklist into a core audited ESG metric that actively boosts investor valuations and employee well-being?" I would like
Oh
to
my
invite
goodness, these.
Dr.
Sorry, go
Deshi
on.
to answer the questions.
This is such a good question as well. It's a problem that we really have in our profession because not everybody's committed to this. And when there's a legal requirement, sometimes people will do the minimum, tick the box, thank you very much. Off we go. The thing goes on the shelf and we get on with trying to make our money. This question, I think, is about culture within an organization and the values of an organization and how we start shifting this. So there are models. There's a safety maturity model you might have come across. It's like safety culture maturity, and that explained things quite nicely where, to start with, you're not very committed. It's maybe one person's responsibility, and then it kind of goes through to where you're in a situation where this is a commitment of the whole organization. It's not easy getting there. Shifting a culture, it takes a lot of time and energy. There are very few quick wins. But I think being able to measure things is important. Again, the money side is important, and we can often make the economic case for investing in occupational health and safety, and that is often around the cost of recruitment, the cost of sick pay, the cost of healthcare, the cost to wider society, and so on. So it is, sadly, it's often the economic argument that wins the day in some business environments. It's a very, very good question. Yeah, really good question.
Thank you, doctor, for the answer. I hope that answers Nandi questions. All right, we're gonna move on to the next question here from Anggita. It's a pretty long question, so I would like to make a concluded of it. So the questions is, my name is Anggita from Jenderal Sudirman University, and I am an international relations student. During my studies, I learned that the fast fashion industry is often linked to poor labor conditions, particularly in developing countries, including low wages, excessive working hours, and unsafe workplace. From an occupational health and safety perspective, how can government, international organizations, and multinational fashion companies collaborate to ensure safer and fairer working conditions across global supply chains? Additionally, do you think current international regulations are sufficient to protect vulnerable workers in the fast fashion industry? Thank you.
Amazing questions. Wow. I personally, I don't think these things are currently working well. We know that they're not, to be honest. We have issues with working conditions. We had the issue. Do you remember the Rana Plaza incident in Bangladesh? Terrible fire a few years ago in a garment factory. Terrible fire. So we know that there are issues. I think the systems aren't working well. Actually, in that presentation, if you share it, Lenivia, afterwards, there is a link there to quite a big report about how the fashion industry are responding to this and the things that they are doing. But I think it's going to come down to a shift. At the end of the day, companies respond to what the customers are demanding. And as long as there are a lot of people demanding fast fashion, there are companies that are going to be providing that. And if you're producing a lot of very cheap clothes, the people who are paying the price of it are, yes, this is it. The people who are paying the price of it are the garment manufacturers often. You know, they're paid very little money and they're working very difficult conditions. So I think there's a job to do around consumer education and being ethical consumers. I've certainly changed my practices. I do buy from companies where I know where the garments have been made. I read the ESG reports of the companies that I buy from, definitely in terms of my clothing. But I know that's unusual. I think the more that we can try and get these international standards in, that's good. But I think also it needs to become something where it's an expectation within the supply chain that companies are saying, okay, we won't buy from you unless you can prove that these conditions are in place. That is starting to happen, but there is some evidence that this greenwashing type thing where, you know, it's not what it's being claimed to be. So people are claiming, yes, our working conditions are amazing. No one's having to work incredibly long hours. We don't have children here. And then sometimes you see these investigative journalist reports which show something quite different. So I think we underestimate our position in our professional lives, but also as consumers and the power that we can have in that way to change things. But we are not there. We are not there. But that report is definitely worth a read because at least we are somewhere now where it's being recognized as an issue, which is more than we did have. These are excellent questions. They're so thoughtful, really thoughtful.
Thank you very much for the answer, Doctor, and also Anggita for the amazing questions. Next, we're gonna move on to the next questions is from Shafira. Hello, Dr. Surinder. I am Shafira from Nadatul Ulama University, South Kalimantan. Earlier, we discussed the ESG datasheets 2025 and assurance of ESG metrics. I would like to ask, how does BP ensure that reported ESG results not only meet reporting standards, but also have a tangible impact on emissions reductions and environmental sustainability?
This is such a good question. Well, I'm not an expert on BP. I was just looking for companies that were talking about safety. So I'm going to struggle to answer this question specifically about that company. But this is a very good point. One of the kind of reasons I picked that one up and also the Pakistani oil company stuff up is that obviously the oil and gas industry are fossil fuel industries. So it's quite interesting to see how how they're dealing with the fact that their core business is, you know, quite polluting. But the demands are that they're trying to show that they're getting towards net zero and so on. So there's a tension there for them, which I was kind of curious about. It's one of the reasons I chose those two companies to have a little look at. I think BP is an interesting one, if I'm right. There's been quite a recent change of tone. I think they were aiming for more renewables, and now they've had a change of management and they're kind of rowing back a little bit about it. So these are difficult times. We're seeing advances and steps back in all sorts of ESG measures. You will have seen in America debates about DEI. It's happening a little bit in the UK. We're seeing rowing back on the net zero commitments a lot of places. It's a strange time. And I think this is where the greenwashing thing comes in, where we need to be astute as practitioners and we look beneath the surface of some of the claims to see, okay, what's the whole story here? Because it's easy to pick and choose. That's a really good question. As I say, I'm not an expert in BP, so I can't answer especially about them. But it is something that we do need to be aware of as consumers and as practitioners, that you can do clever things with marketing for sure.
All right, thank you for the answer, Doctor. Thank you also for Shafira, the questions. Next, we're gonna move to Alisa question. Good afternoon, Dr. Surinder. My name is Alisa, a student marine and fisheries educations from Indonesian University of Education. My question is, if ESG goals conflict with short-term shareholders' profitability, how does your board prioritize these competing interests?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is something that we do have issues with in our profession, because sometimes an investment doesn't yield an immediate result, certainly health-wise. And we know, I mean, you look back on all the asbestos exposure, asbestos claims, the lag time between the exposure and the claim, can be decades. So in our line of work, sometimes it's quite difficult to make the immediate economic argument. Sometimes we're trying to make a longer term argument, and it's difficult. It's difficult. The reality is that we don't always succeed in this. We need to find lots of different ways of trying to influence the board to get our arguments across. And I think that requires, I did a training course on this once actually, around trying to influence. So they were suggesting you do some homework, you learn about the individuals that you're trying to influence, and you try to learn what motivates them as individuals. What are they interested in? Are they interested in storytelling? Are they interested in facts and figures? Are they looking at things in the short term, in the long term? And you craft a range of arguments that would try to appeal to them. And I think the other thing is that you don't give up easily. So it might be that you try something, it doesn't work the first time. Okay, we try again, we try again, we try again. We don't give up and run away. And actually, everyone I know from Indonesia is very good at being persistent and not giving up easily. So I think that is something that we need to just be persistent with. Again, it's a culture change thing. It's a politics thing, and we just need to keep pushing away at it. I think we missed a question, Lenivia, did we? From Zaina?
You already answered the Zaina
Did I
questions,
do that
Doctor.
one? Oh, the competing one. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yes, you're right. Okay. So we have one more, I think.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Doctor, for the answer. I think that already answers Alisa's questions. Pretty much. So we're gonna move on to the next questions here from Barek. So Barek question is, good afternoon, Dr. Surinder. My name is Barek from South Sudan. I am chemical engineering student from Universitas Negeri Malang. Please, my question is more career focused. Are there postgraduate opportunities at your department at the University of Birmingham because I would like to further my studies in the UK, especially with focus on environmental field. Since you supervise your student from Ghana during the project, I wish you can share with me any golden opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we have master's programs and we have PhD opportunities as well. But the difficult thing, to be very honest, is the funding. It's very hard to get funding. At the moment, I don't have any funded places. So if you have the funding, then yes, there are opportunities, obviously, depending on grades. And if it's a PhD, the project proposal and availability of supervisors and all that kind of thing. As I say, the tricky thing is often getting the funding because the UK fees are quite high, and the cost of living is quite high. But we would love to welcome you, Barak, and we would, well, anybody actually, you know, we would love to have you. So yeah, that's the tricky part.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you also, Barak, for the questions. We're gonna move on to the next question here from Hilwa. Good afternoon, Dr. Surinder. I'm sorry. There's another question here from Reva. Turns out, Reva. Hello, Miss. My name is Reva from State Polytechnic of Malang. I am a student with an engineering background. Throughout my studies, I was taught that occupational safety is very important in industry, but the things that are usually emphasized are how the workers, while many industry comply with regulations. Many ignore the safety of their workers. What do you think about the implementation of ESG?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. I mean, looking after workers, as we all know, is very patchy. Sometimes you see, well, different countries have different regimes for health and safety enforcement. Um, if I'm right, if I'm right in Indonesia, I think the big companies are subject to inspections, but the informal economy is less so. Is that correct? The informal economy is not subject to the same level of inspection and enforcement as the big companies. Am I right?
Yes, you are right.
Yeah, I'm getting some thumbs up. Okay, that's good. So, you know, there's a discrepancy there in the working conditions of the people in the informal economy compared to the people in the formal large company economy. So I think we also, I mean, we've spoken about the politics to an extent. We've spoken about engagement with board members, but we also need to engage with the politics, because sometimes we're looking at changing how a company's kind of inspection regime operates. And the things that seem to make a difference are, you know, the regulatory regime. So what the law says, what the workforce is in place to influence that law, and make sure that the enforcement is happening. The other way things tend to change is where there's international international companies operating with international standards, and those international standards are written into contracts, and they then pull up the practices. We see that in the oil and gas industry, these big kind of multinational companies that are operating in lots of jurisdictions, they tend to follow the international standards because they need it for business reasons. So I think it's another one of those things. It's far from perfect. We know people are being injured at work a lot. We know their health is being harmed a lot throughout the world. And we have to be very good, not only technically, but we have to be very good at the leadership, the management, the communication, the political dialogue. All of this is part of our role. And we need to accept that, and we need to have the skills to make the case for things beyond just the technical excellence. And the ESG is connected with that, to be honest. It's kind of the same argument. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Doctor, for the answer, and also thank you, Reva, for the questions. Next, we have a question here from Hilwa. Good afternoon, Dr. Surinder. My name is Hilwa Zaitina from Universitas Jenderal Ahmad Dhani. Based on your incredible humanitarian research experience in challenging environments like Gaza and refugee camps, what was the most difficult challenge you faced in assessing safety and health, and what valuable lessons can safety professionals learn from those extreme situations? Thank you.
Oh, Hilwa, gosh, you've done some reading. That's really touched my heart. Thank you very, very much. Actually, I have a paper on this that just got rejected. So I have to rewrite and resubmit this paper. This is academic life. Yeah. So I did a piece of research on the health and safety and the well-being of volunteers supporting people who had been displaced, and we found some indications of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah. We found some indications of that from their support activities. So I imagine this is in your teaching around health and safety. It's certainly in our teaching now that it's easy enough to focus on the safety. It's less easy to focus on the health, and it's even less easy to focus on mental health. But mental health protection, work-related stress, exposure to difficult things, that's all part of health and safety. And it's no good ignoring it, because when we look at the time that people are off work because of these things, mental health is one of, certainly in the UK, mental health is one of the major causes. So I think, speaking for myself, I mean, I was looking from the health and safety point of view at, hygiene, exposure to biological hazards, physical safety, so on, making sure there were good arrangements in place if I felt concerned for my safety. But I think, to be truthful with you, the most difficult part has been the mental health aspect of it, because sometimes you're speaking to people who are in really fairly hopeless situations. And actually, I'm sitting in my office here. I have a map of Indonesia on the wall above me here. And on the wall over here, I have a photograph of a flower. And that flower was given to me by a displaced person who was living in a horrible camp in Calais in France in 2015. And this guy said to me, we just clicked. When you click and you're just chatting, and he said, "I'm so sorry, I've got nothing. I wish I could, host you properly. I have nothing I can give you." He was from Egypt. He was a fisherman, and he said, "But here, I can give you this flower." And I still have that flower, and I have a photo of the flower on my wall in my office to never forget the situations that these people are in. So I think this is a brilliant question. I think the main lesson for all of us from these things is look out for the most vulnerable people. Don't forget the most vulnerable people. They're the ones that deserve our main attention. And don't forget the mental health side of things. These are the two things. Such a good question, Hilwa. Thank you. Really good questions. These are fabulous questions.
Thank you, Doctor, for the answer. I hope your paper could publish soon so we could read it. And also, thank you, Hilwa, for the questions. All right, because we are approaching the end of the Q&A session, so we will take one last question here from Muhammad Abdul Mufid from Universitas Negeri Semarang. My question is about the governance dilemma. Many boards face pressure from the short-term investors who prioritize quarterly earnings over sustainability. In your experience, can internal corporate governance alone solve this conflict, or do we strictly need stronger government regulations and commercial penalties to force boards to prioritize ESG over short-term profits?
It's a really good question. I think, I mean, it's really true. It's true. I mean, money's affects how the world runs, doesn't it? I think maybe, you know, in life we need a combination of different factors. I do think there's a strong role for regulation in occupational health and safety, in environmental protections, but it's no good just having the words on the paper. You have to have the workforce enforcing that regulation, otherwise it may as well not be there. It's a nothing if there isn't that kind of arrangement in place to make sure that if someone doesn't comply with the regulations, that there's a consequence that follows from it. If it's just a regulation and nothing happens, it's achieving nothing. I think, though, there is an argument that I I think we have to focus on, with the legislation, the protecting of the workers, the protecting of the environment. It's difficult to have a regulation that directly impacts on ethics, because ethical implications are read differently by different people. But there are obviously regulations around money laundering, bribery, all this kind of stuff. But I'm conscious we're sort of out of time. But I think, again, I would return to my answer to one of the former questions about we need to not just be technically proficient as practitioners, we need to be politically proficient as well, and to be able to advocate for the things we believe in at all of these levels and be able to present the good arguments and to convince people. And that culture change, it takes time and it will take a concerted effort from us all. These are brilliant questions. Thank you so much. They're so thoughtful.
All right, thank you, Doctor, for the answer, and also thank you, Abdul, for the questions. Well, Abdul question marks the closing of the Q&A session. I would like to thank Dr. Deshi for all the valuable knowledge, experiences, and also insights that you have shared with us today. It has truly been an informative and inspiring session for all of us. Before we officially conclude today's sessions, perhaps Dr. Deshi would like to share some closing remarks or messages for all participants here.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, I would just like to thank you really for this lovely invitation. As I say, I wish I was there in person to meet you all, but there we are. I'm in the UK and you're in Indonesia. So, but I would just say you have chosen a really, really important career path. You will have times during that career where maybe you don't feel that you are making a difference necessarily. You will be giving people messages sometimes that they don't want to hear. You won't always be welcomed. You know, it can be difficult, but you have chosen such a good, worthwhile profession. Don't lose your faith in it. Don't lose your faith in it, because you will be making a massive difference, even on a certain difficult day when you are saying something that someone doesn't want to hear. You're making them spend money, whatever it is, you are making a difference and you are protecting the most vulnerable people in society. And that's what calls us to do this job in the first place. So look after each other, keep your strong network, look after yourselves, and as I say, keep your faith that you chose a good path and that you are doing the right thing. Even if some days are a bit bumpy, you have really chosen something good.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for the inspiring closing remarks. Really strengthen my passion here in occupational health and safety. And with that, we have come to the end of today's session. On behalf of the committee, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Surinder Kishandeshi for taking the time to join us and share her knowledge in occupational health and safety sharing knowledge X Upgrading OHSC 2026. Thank you as well to all participants for your enthusiasm and active participation throughout the session. I sincerely apologize if there were any mistakes or shortcomings from my side as the moderator. Lastly, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, and greetings of virtue to us all. I am Lanivia as the moderator, signing off, and I will return this session to our MCs, Kire and Hani. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much to Lanivia as a moderator, and thank you so much to Dr. Deshi for the session. And before we next move to the next session, we have Mr. Abdul Qadir, Bachelor of Public Health, Magister of Science from Department of Occupational Health and Safety, Universitas Indonesia, who would like to say a few words and greet to Dr. Deshi. To Mr. Ading, the screen is yours.
Hi, Dr. Surrender. How are you?
Hello.
Hello,
So nice
thank
to
you
see
so
you.
much.
Oh,
Yes. Thank you so much for your time to give sharing your expertise in this topic, even though you have a tight schedule, but thank you very much for this time. See you. See you on September.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes,
Yes. Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Yes. Bye-bye. Ya,
Oh,
silakan
that is
dilanjutkan, cuman mau menyapa aja.
All right, now we will have a 5-minute break. Please take this time to stretch your body, rest your eyes, or drink some water. We will resume the session in 5 minutes.
Okay, so while we wait, and I would like to ask to Hani before we move on to the next session. Okay, I'm curious about what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the term of ESG.
Um, Honestly, I used to immediately think about environmental issues because ESG is often associated with climate change and sustainability, Kiray.
Yeah, that's right, and I can relate that. But the more I learn about it, and the more I realize that ESG is actually much broader than that.
Exactly. It also includes social and governance aspects, which are just as important. Even occupational health and safety, which we often discuss in our field, is a part of ESG, Kiray.
And that's right. That's a good point, I guess. And nowadays, more and more companies are talking about ESG, and also Dr. Deshi mentioned about fast fashion, and also, but do you think all of them truly understand about what it means?
That's an interesting question, Kiray. I think not all of them do, but some companies have already integrated ESG into their long-term strategies, while others may still view it mainly as a way meet regulation or stakeholder expectations.
I agree, and that's why today's session about our discussion about the previous Dr. Deshi have mentioned about the ASG and etc. And like this, in nowadays, like today's are so important benefit for us, and they help us to see about ESG that this topic is not just a trend, but as something that can create a real impact for the future.
Yeah, especially when we connect it to public health and occupational health and safety, Kiray. The effects can be felt directly by workers and even by a society as a whole.
Absolutely. And hopefully, everyone joining us today will gain some new insights from the discussion we're talking to here. And then I'm glad that we are here today, honey. What about you?
True, I'm so glad today we joined this session. My brain needs to stretch as my body.
Okay, and speaking of stretch, I would like to remind all participants to stretch your body, drink water, and sit upright. Avoid slouching and adjust your screen to meet at eye level, because poor posture may increase the risk of musculoskeletal disorders such as back pain or neck pain.
Pastikan posisi duduk hadirin sudah ergonomis ya. Duduk dengan punggung tegak, jangan membungkuk, dan atur layar perangkat hadirin agar sejajar dengan mata. Postur kerja yang buruk bisa jadi faktor risiko gangguan muskuloskeletal seperti nyeri punggung atau nyeri pada bagian leher.
Okay, now from today's session, we know that upgrading isn't just about skills, right? And it's also about awareness. And now we come to the break time is over, guys. Next, I would like to say thank you very much to our moderator today, to Lanivia, for leading today's session with Dr. Deshi, and we will now proceed to the certificate handover session for our speaker today, Dr. Surinder Kishan Deshi, which will be presented by the General Leader of OHSC FKM UI 2026, Kezia Destiny Manuela. To Kezia, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Surinda, Dr. Desi, for your sharing today. It's such a nice, insightful material, and it's such an honor for us because this topic we probably wouldn't get it in our daily class because it's something that still new, and it's probably a very professional topic that we as student probably wouldn't get, but this is such an opportunity from you, so thank you that you had given us your time and your willingness to teach us about ESG, and I hope from your because of your knowledge we can improve the OHS world later on the future by implementing and improving the environment, society, and governance too. So please take this certificate as our little appreciation, and may this certificate remark our works together. And I'm looking forward to meet you again and learn more from you. And also, once again, thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
so
now,
much.
since we're getting ready for the documentation session, please kindly hold your smile for a moment as we will now proceed with the documentation session assisted by the team. So, to the team, please go ahead.
Okay, countdown in 3, 2, 1. Okay, done. Thank you, Dr. Surner and Kezia.
Okay, thank you very much to Kezia and to Dr. Deshi.
Next, we will proceed to the certificate handover session for our moderator, which will be presented by Aditya Pratamaputra as the project officer of the OHS Sharing Knowledge and OHS 2026 upgrading program. To Adit, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Lanivia, for attending this event and being the moderator for this event session.
Thank you very much too also for OHSC because already giving me this opportunity to become moderator in this session. And I truly relieved that we could actually receive the certificate and go on with the event.
Okay, so please kindly hold your smile to the documentation team. Please go ahead.
Okay, countdown in 3, 2, 1. Okay, done. Thank you, Lanivia and Adit.
Thank you too to Adit and Lanivia.
Alright, we will proceed with the documentation session together with all participants. We kindly invite all participants to turn on their cameras, use the virtual background that has been provided, and keep your best smile on. Kepada hadirin dimohon untuk membuka fitur kamera dan menggunakan virtual background yang telah tersedia. Alright, committee team, are we ready? Okay, everyone, camera on, please. The first is first slide. Okay, countdown in 3, 2, 1. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Slide 4. Slide 5. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And the last slide. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And once again, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Deshi for kindly taking the time to participate and share valuable insights on today's event. And so, with all due respect, if Dr. Deshi have another engagement to attend to, you're welcome to leave the Zoom meeting room.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for this lovely invitation. Take care, everyone. I wish you well.
Thank you very much, and see you
All
soon.
right,
Bye-bye.
next we will
Thank
now
you.
proceed
Yeah. See you. Bye-bye.
an post-test session. We kindly invite all participants to complete the satisfaction survey and a post-test, which can be accessed by scanning the QR code displayed on the screen or through the following link at bit.ly/surcapsk2026. Selanjutnya, kepada hadirin dipersilahkan untuk mengisi survei kepuasan dan post-test yang bisa diakses melalui scan kode QR atau link yang telah tertera di layar atau melalui bit.ly/surcapsk2026.
All right, everyone. While we wait for the participants to complete the satisfaction survey and post-test, I want to ask Hani about something again.
Wow, another question, Kirei.
Of course. And so after going through today's event, what's one word that describe your feeling right now?
I think I'd say relief, honestly, because the event finally happened after a long preparation, Kirei.
Yeah, that's it. And that's for real, I guess. And for me, it's probably about happy. That would describe for my opinion for today, especially seeing everyone joining and participating happily today. It makes me also happy.
True, Kirei. Hopefully today's session were enjoyable and useful for all participants as well.
And hopefully everyone got new insights and experience for today's event too.
Oh yeah, for participants who haven't completed the satisfaction survey and a post-test yet, please make sure to fill them out through the QR code or link shown on the screen. Untuk hadirin yang belum mengisi survei kepuasan dan post-test, dipersilahkan untuk mengisi melalui kode QR atau link yang tertera pada layar. Kami ingatkan, pengisian survei kepuasan dan post-test ini bersifat wajib karena merupakan syarat untuk mendapatkan sertifikat.
Okay, we'll still wait for everyone to finish. And so, guys, no need to rush. And before we move to the end sessions, I would like to conclude again from the experience that we have gained. So basically, we've gained about the ESG. We talked about how is it important, especially on occupational health and safety, because nowadays occupational health and safety become important in today's world, right, Nani?
Right, Kirei.
And yeah, guys, so I hope that everyone gains something valuable and insightful for today's and for your future, of course. Okay, everyone, just a quick reminder that there is 1 minute left to complete the satisfaction survey and post-test. Please make sure to submit them before the time is up. Waktu tersisa 1 menit lagi untuk mengisi survei kepuasan dan post-test. Jangan lupa untuk mengisi sebelum waktu habis, dan diharapkan untuk mengisi karena bersifat wajib, menjadi syarat untuk mendapatkan sertifikat.
Alright, everyone. The time for filling out the satisfaction survey and a post-test is now over. Now, I would like to ask Kirei. So, Kirei, what's next on today's agenda?
So next on today's agenda, wait, let me think again. We already started with prayer. We also have started with remark from our speakers. We already start and gain valuable thing from today's session. And oh my God, sadly, honey, we are at the end of today's program.
Oh my, that is indeed quite unfortunate. But however, we were grateful that today we were able to learn new things together and gain such valuable insight and experiences.
That's it. Um, so from here, I would like to conclude today's program as we begin the event with prayer and also let us end it with prayer. We kindly invite all participants to pray according to their respective beliefs and religions. So, pray begin. Pray never ends.
We would like to express our sincere gratitude to all distinguished participants for attending the OHS Sharing Knowledge and OHSC 2026 upgrading program today.
We sincerely apologize for any mistakes or shortcomings throughout the events. And so on, I am Kirei.
And I'm Hani. Thank you for your attention and participation. We hope to see you again at our future events. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Shalom.
Om Santi 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 Om.
Nama budaya.
Salam kebajikan. See you again.